Thanks, guys. First word of warning is that I cannot possibly speak as quickly as Travis. But I also don't have blockchain in my head, so he's helping me with that. But I'm really glad that you guys are all here because the first thing is that I have a secret. The secret is that I'm actually a 62-year-old British woman. I'm also a 39-year-old American guy. I'm single, but I'm also married, and I have a whole bunch of kids also. I make less than 20 grand a year. I make more than $500,000 a year. Something in this is wrong. This multiple personality disorder is from one of our favorite DMPs that's out there. And we can thank them for that, because it's not exactly my actual multiple personality disorder. But this is not okay, because the scary thing about this is that a lot of us are limited to this kind of targeting today and what we're doing in marketing technology. At a minimum, it's really inefficient, right? But at the worst, it can be really dangerous, because we're living in this world of fake news and post-truth. And really, we're looking at an entire environment that's really about mistaken identities. And so this is really not helping. So how do we do better? When we talk about The Economist, we talk about values. And today, there are a lot of discussions about people being values voters, and we're sort of voting with our money with the things that we believe in that appeal to us as people. And The Economist, from front to back, from commercial to editorial, we trade in this authenticity of thought. So whether that's analysis or it's looking into the future and it's trying to predict a thing. The World in 2018 just came out yesterday, by the way, to see how accurate that is. For us at The Economist, because this is so important to who we are and our core values, as marketers and as marketing technologists, and as the people who are the closest to the customers that are out there, we have a particular duty to make sure that we represent who we are to people out there, not just as The Economist, but whoever you are. So the story that I'm really going to tell you is really about digital transformation, but digital transformation means something different for everyone in this audience. And so for us, as a 175-year-old brand, what does that really mean? And how do you do it? Do you transform a thing like the record industry transformed? Do you transform a thing like the way Uber has transformed a thing? We're publishing, How do you take that, a whole bunch of content, and an old brand and make it new again? There's a problem with audiences, and there's also a problem with technology. How do we find these people, and how do we make it for them? So the first thing that we did was we really had a little bit of humility and said we need to just kind of blow everything up and smash it up and start from scratch. So in the beginning, The Economist has always been a profitable newspaper, right? A lot of folks really, really happy with a little bit of growth every year, 4%, 5%, everyone was good, went home at the end of the day. But there was always a really, really, really big elephant in the room. Traditional advertising, right? Going completely down the drain. This was not the place that we were going to grow. So we knew we had to get more subscribers. This was key to the thing, but how do you do that? Because like I said, the people that we try to appeal to are different now. You and I are different now. You and I are smarter than all of the advertising that goes on out there because we know that we're being advertised to. So we couldn't do the same things that we were always doing. So we did a lot of research, and core research for us in The Economist was that we had 73 million globally curious potential readers out there, English-speaking around the world. But what it doesn't really tell you is that the people, though that 73 million that's in there, not the same as we were before. The people we're trying to appeal to, you and I, are learning faster than most companies are, whoever you are. So we had to change the way that we were looking at things, and that was about learning from everyone that was coming to us and understanding what people were actually doing, and having, again, some humility to say, we may be experts at curation, we may push out great content out there, but actually you and I are people who are different and expecting different things. Anybody who works on a www site that you own, that you know that your site has 10 stakeholders, 100 stakeholders, maybe a few hundred. I spoke to some people about this. There was no way that what we wanted to do in terms of accelerating marketing technology and changing the very, very playground of where people are coming into and what we could do with them and what we wanted to push out there. There was no way we could do it on .com because everybody is the most important person in the room and everyone wants to shove something onto the website. So we built a customer playground that really took the form of marketing, being technologists first by building our own website, building our own technology behind it, how we supplied that, which was not controlled by editors, but controlled by marketing. What's really key in how we built this was actually looking at a triangle of needs or a triangle of power, if anybody's a particular gamer. It was all about actually looking at needs and not being confused by every single acronym that exists out there. And Travis was talking about a lot of them. Whether it's a DMP or a CDP or a DSP, whatever the hell it is, there's something new that's created every single day, and suddenly somebody's telling you it is the most important thing in the room, which is totally not true. Because you gotta look at your own company, you gotta look at what you're doing and why you're doing it and where the needs are so you can build against the needs. This particular triangle is set up in a particular way in terms of its language. This is not about attribution and attribution platforms. It's not about audience extension platforms. These are active verbs in saying you need to attribute the resources that you're using to find people, your action about extending to find other people, and profiling. You gotta find the right systems that fit that particular vision of the future you're looking at. So for us, this is today. This is probably about 2 months old, which means that we have 2 extra platforms on here already. But what's really, really key here is that The Economist as a business is really about content and customers. And we're trying to push a particular piece of content to a particular customer, but we're trying to figure out what's important to you. And I'm saying you not as a group of people here, but individuals here. My job is to help this company with 175 years of content, find exactly the right article to show you at exactly the touch point that I see you, understanding what I may know about you through a profile. And this is all about that. We didn't start, obviously, from all that, and I'm sure you guys are all in different stages of your marketing tech evolution, if it's evidence from people that I've spoken to today. We started out, really kind of tackling third-party data, and I think a lot of folks are still, in that place. And today we're really talking about how we moved up to the point today where we're looking at what a CDP can bring to us as a centralized data platform. This CDP for us combines and really creates the core of this marketing hub that we're talking about. Because what we're doing today is that we're actually creating a one-on-one experience for you individually. And I invite you guys, you can go to discovery.economist.com. It is a separate site, it goes elsewhere. You guys should all see different things, especially if I've seen you before and I've got a profile on you. The CDP is running the things behind the scenes here. This is also built on content APIs, microservices that were happening behind the scenes. This has completely changed the game and what we do. What it allows us to do also is to move very, very quickly as to the things that are happening in the world. Even these are, a little bit old at this point, although we're obviously still talking about all this stuff. But these different kinds of custom content hubs, they happen because this hub is actually looking and seeing what is happening in the world today. I know we talk about a lot of things like, hey, maybe we can push a message out to somebody if it's raining. And if it's raining, go buy my umbrella, or go into my shop, that's over here, and you can go and get a coffee and, save yourself. For us, what we're doing is that we're doing a version of that where we're looking at what is really being talked about out there, and then taking all of the content in an agnostic way, in a granular way, and pushing it up to the front. This is all based on this triangle of needs, right? There's a lot of triangle power in the particular presentation. But there's this combination of user effort and context around the content for us that join together in this place, which is really kind of the magical and pinnacle peak of it, where we can find the right context for a piece of content for a particular user. But you can't just go there, right? You've got a whole bunch of stuff that you've got to take care of from the foundation. I know we talk a lot about technology and data inside of the marketing technology conferences in the world and the industry. There are processes in here. There's project management here. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you really need to take care of to get to that foundation to move up to the one-to-many and then the one-to-one interaction that you want to build. So this is a snapshot off of the CDP that we use, called Lytics. We create persistent profiles over time. This is an actual real person. These profiles exist on a regular basis to collecting anything that you may touch in terms of The Economist, an ad, an impression, a click, anything that's on the site, the apps. We're aggregating all of this information into these profiles so that we can understand on a continual basis exactly who you are and how you're evolving in terms of how we're interacting with you as a content company. And then we take these profiles that exist and we run a data science layer on top of it, and then use these to then do the things in terms of the Facebook modeling, or pushing it out over to GA so that we can look at the smart list on that side and start looking at people that way. Ultimately, we're creating this kind of this context that is really joining a user level affinity with a content level affinity. Because really at the base of this, that's what's really difficult as a content company or as The Economist. We have got 175 years of content, but the thing is, it's not about metadata for us, it's about meaning. Because the word Apple, right, does not mean the same thing it does today as it did 10 years ago, as it did 50 years ago, or 175 years ago. Or Trump, or Brexit, or even Russia and all of these things, right? There's a particular meaning behind all of this that changes over time, and it's not even year to year or month to month or day to day. I mean, this is like minute to minute these days. There's no way that a person could possibly change metadata or understand what's relevant for this stuff, and then how is it relevant for you, for the 73 million people that are out there. So what we're doing is that we're utilizing Watson also with another company called OpenTopic to build an API layer to actually abstract the information that is in the corpus of content that is The Economist, pipe it in through Watson so that Watson can do a level of semantic processing along with everything else they do to help us actually understand the meaning of a piece of content and then really understand if that means anything to you or to me. We're building this progressive customer intelligence capability that's really, really about individuals and understanding individuals and exactly how you relate to us as a brand. I've been doing this for the last 3 years and tracking everything from that ad click all the way to the subscribe, and then now after that to look at the health of you as a customer. So we combine all this tech into this marketing hub. And this is the newest version of the marketing hub that exists. And I think what's really cool about this is that there are only two things that are static on this page. It's the logo and then the button that helps you give us money. Everything else is dynamic that exists. And I think what is really, really important is that, we talk about the mistaken identities and the fake news, but we also talk about echo chambers. And as a news organization, we have a kind of responsibility to make sure that we don't go too far down the rabbit hole in this personalization. And so we've got this section over here that's just discovery content, let me call it. So essentially, if your profile gets more and more liberal, that piece gets more and more conservative. There's a lot that we're doing behind the scenes when we're talking about this kind of neuro-linguistic kind of processing. And folks that we're talking to who are doing really, really amazing stuff with essentially recording human responses to things like to videos or commercials and things like that, and these emotional moments that cause people to understand the thing. So there's a scientific kind of basis for how we've structured and created this thing. So we're combining the science of it. Maybe there's a more science piece of this. That's not just data science. But all of this stuff that is personalization is about approach, and then that is about withdrawal. And there's the pieces inside of that where that withdrawal piece is, why is that on my page? I don't want to see an article about Trump and this. I don't want to see it, but you know what? I'm going to touch it anyway because it's hot and I know I'm not supposed to touch it, but I'm going to go and click on it because no one can see what I'm doing. But we can see what we're doing. So really, like all of this stuff what's really done is that in the last 3 years, that hedge against subscription instead of advertising worked. We quadrupled our subscription revenue. We started at 9 million and people thought it was awesome and it was really, really great. And it was for what we were doing. And we hoped maybe for 20% growth the next year, but actually we doubled. We doubled and then we doubled and we doubled. So obviously that's great, in terms of a revenue for the company. But like from a personal level, my MarTech budget also kept going up, and it went up even faster. I've got 13, now I've got about 27 times, actually, because this just doubled this week. So I am kind of shopping if anybody wants to sell more tech. So shopping, not just window shopping. But there are all these platforms, that are out there that exist that we have to, kind of wade through, like I was saying. But if you go to that point and you start to really question and ask the right questions, sometimes they're hard questions, into the business, find the right champions, and understand exactly where the gaps are, then you can spend money, and then you can prove out exactly what you can do with that money, how you can be just as effective as a marketer putting a campaign together and actually getting an ROI. So I wanted to mention something that was really, really important with what's shifted with the changing in revenue, is that The Economist, like most publications, were completely advertising. I'm saying completely, but mostly advertising driven for, say, decades, not centuries. And there's been a real shift in that. Now this is also now slightly out of date. We're just about 70% subscription revenue based now. So one of these big things is that this circulation department, this marketing department, this little MarTech kind of department inside of these layers shifted the entire company into a new paradigm. We can actually now go to the editors and we can maybe tell them to maybe fuck off sometimes. Because you know what, maybe we know what we're doing a little bit in the commercial areas too. That feels really good. So there's a really good case study that's, we just got results from this. We were doing a millennials campaign. Like, who is not doing a millennials campaign? And who the hell is a millennial anyway? Because I fit apparently into a millennial segment. But just to show like how this actually works and how you can define the fact that millennials are really behavior-based, right? They're not demographic-based. It's not even psychographic-based. There are these very, very specific patterns of behavior that exist to really define who these people are. So we can do simple things like looking at email addresses. We all know how to do that. We can look at IPs and stuff like that. But there's a level of propensity modeling that exists that's really, really what creates a level of understanding that if we're going to target folks, whether it's a millennial or it's a group of quote-unquote women, because that's one of the things we have to do too. The propensity modeling is the data science that sits on as a layer on top of the profiles. So we're doing some smart understanding in exactly the patterns of behavior psychologically as to who we're trying to target. And it works. Because not only do we use the CDP for these kinds of profiles, but it allows us to also orchestrate from the center and run these actual multi-channel campaigns. Like The Economist is on Snapchat. I don't know if how many of you guys have seen this, but like, I was working on this and couldn't believe how quickly we got into it. Also, The Economist on Snapchat, it's also kind of weird. But it's there, And the thing is, we can send the audiences into Snapchat and make sure we're not targeting folks that we're already targeting on other platforms. I mean, we know it doesn't matter how many caps you put on the thing. Only 4 ads in 2 hours, per day, per whatever. But what does that matter if you can't actually coordinate all that together? Because if you're getting 4 ads on Facebook and 4 ads through display and 4 ads through search and 5 ads over here, you're still getting a whole bunch of stuff and you're totally getting overloaded, and we're not doing our jobs in giving you good advertising. We're not being a good player. There's some on-site retargeting too, in this, and it works really well. This is really kind of almost basic stuff when you think about it. It's the exit intent stuff, So, mouse out, spend too long, don't do anything. Here's a book, please read this book, please read this book. It's not selling, we'll give it to you for free, please buy something. But it works. So we talked to the ad tech folks, right? We have return on ad spend. Yes, we can totally prove that too. 37% more efficient, whatnot. But the key kind of piece here is that when you start to take some of these traditional metrics and traditional ways that people need to understand money and return, you can start to prove out the value of all of these awesome platforms that exist that you should totally be using. But it does take some thought into figuring out what you need and how you can utilize it. For us, the CPA as a cost per acquisition is king. Is a king's KPI across the board for us. And we see this also. This is a CMO's favorite slide because they understand what we're doing is absolutely working. This is how we get more money into MarTech. This is how we get more investment and trust and care. And I wanted to talk really quickly about this because I was, a couple of weeks ago, I was asked to do a surprise keynote at a mobile marketing programmatic conference. And they asked me, what do you think programmatic is in 2018? This is a non-MarTech conference. This is all ad tech, right? What do you think programmatic is in 2018? But we've been colliding for a long time, like ad tech and MarTech, and we're going to be at that place where we're talking about it. It's called Mad Tech with marketing and ad tech. Because there are pieces of this that we are going to want to use as services. Data science is something you can buy off the shelf. NLP is something you can buy off the shelf. You can start to invest and create all this, create a tech stack for yourself that services the marketing side and the advertising side. Because programmatic is personalization, and personalization is programmatic. And as an ex-developer, it kind of bothers me a little bit that this is kind of programmatic because it's not really development. So it's great. Success at The Economist, that's great. But what do we do now? What is the future of all of this if we've created a machine or multiple machines here that have automated away a whole bunch of manual jobs to be able to zero in on individuals? It's your goddamn privacy rights. The most annoying thing in the room, in the country, is probably GDPR. I don't want to deal with it. Nobody really wants to deal with it. I just finished about 60 hours of training on GDPR specifically for marketing, so I'm not a fan right now. But realistically, there's just an attitude shift here. And for us, really into 2018, is looking at how GDPR is going to change our jobs, our environment, What does it mean to profile? What are we allowed to do? What's a legitimate interest? What isn't? But really key here is that companies need to go and understand that moving from guidance to regulation means that means lawyers. And I don't think anybody really wants a lawyer to come after you in any way. So as a company, you've got to move and understand what that really means. But the kind of really great thing here at the end of the day is that customers are moving from just participants in the thing that we do with marketing, and they're really moving to becoming owners of their data. We could probably talk about this all next year. Probably it's the only thing we'll talk about. Is as a data owner, as a different kind of customer, a lot of the MarTech that you maybe are doing now or should be doing should be preparing you for the ability to address customers as the owners of their own data. And that's actually really key, talking about needs. This is a real need into the next year. So your challenge and our challenge, it's all the same. We work in different companies, we work in different places, but ultimately, we want to get down to that place where it's about the customer. And we have a real ability these days with the technology at hand to get to that individual customer. But now that we have it, we suddenly have new responsibilities, we have governance that we need to follow, there are best practices, et cetera. There's a lot of chaos out there, and that chaos is directly against an ability for us to address a customer. And if you can't address a customer, imagine how confused a customer is to your particular company. So our challenge and my challenge to you and all of you guys is to actually reinvent the wheel. Discover, understand what the needs are in your environment. Understand what you need and what you don't need. Find that for your company and your organization and what you need to do. Thank you. That's it.